Hello everyone, welcome to my first video. I've decided to try recording devlog videos about my progress with the game to see how it works out. I might make more if you like this one, but I don't think it's going to be a frequent thing, we'll see though. Today I wanted to go over the upcoming content and build D of Absolution, what to expect, how much has already been done and how much more is left. There's an announcement at the end of this video, so you want to stick around for that. With that out of the way, let's talk about week 5. The latest released version of Absolution is called Build C, since it came after builds A and B. Each subsequent build contains an additional week, past what the previous one had. Build C contains weeks 1 through 4 out of 6, for the 4 patient routes. The next build will contain week 5. Absolution's story is divided into 3 parts that I refer to as acts. Act 1 encompasses the first 2 to 3 weeks of the game, depending on the route. This is the time when the game gradually introduces its story, gameplay, and characters. Act 2 starts with the first major event that hints at the main story, and uncovering the mystery lasts until Friday of week 5, which is when build D will conclude. I haven't decided the exact cutoff point for the build yet, because there are several events on that day, but all I can say for now is that it will be a very exciting conclusion to the story up to that point, and a smooth transition into the tense finale that is Act 3. Here I just want to give a quick warning that this upcoming section will contain spoilers for the common story of weeks 1 through 4, but nothing about the routes, so if you're caught up with the released builds up to C on at least one route, or if you don't care about non-route spoilers, keep watching. If you are neither of these, skip to the next section of the video. The story so far. You are Miss Hart, a young psychologist who gets her dream job at St. Augustine's Hospital. She's new, she's fresh, she's excited, but things soon turn out to be more complicated than she anticipated. In a moment of doubt, she has a dream of a strange figure calling out to her, telling her not to give up, someone who seems familiar, yet so far away. She regains her determination and continues working with her 4 patients, ultimately deciding that she wants to focus on one of them without neglecting the others. She continues to dig deeper, finding out about her patient's past, his feelings, his struggles, until an unexpected event shakes everything that she's taken for granted these past 3 weeks. 3 patients break out of control and attack her before she is miraculously saved by nurses. The matter is brought up to the overseeing psychiatrist and de facto leader of the hospital staff, Dr. Sharp, who decides that the main character requires a week-long break away from work to recover from her injuries and heal emotionally. Throughout her break, the main character remembers events surrounding the suicide of her sister, Jane, the same figure she saw in her dream earlier, something she repressed as a child. On one dark, rainy night, a stranger calls her, telling her to meet him the next day, alone. She decides to hear what the mysterious man, who only introduces himself as G, has to say, and learns that he used to work at the hospital as a night guard, but after witnessing unexplained events followed by the death of a patient, he concluded that Dr. Sharp was to blame. He became convinced that the man has, and still is, committing numerous crimes at the hospital, and recruits the main character to conduct a covert investigation to uncover the truth. Conflicted, the main character returns home where she has another dream, this time of her sister Jane, or what seems to be her ghost, appearing to warn her about a dark presence that has been looming over her since the day that she began her work at the hospital. And this is where Build D begins, with the main character faced with the choice of who to trust, what to believe, and ultimately, what is best for her and her patients. Act 2 focuses on uncovering the mysteries of the hospital, but while the first half of it, Build C, has the main character learn from other people, Build D is where she takes the initiative and must uncover the truth on her own. That's where the investigation comes in. I've written and implemented events spread out over 5 days, with break events being initiated by players and after work and morning events on the following day being triggered by the outcome of the break events. Every break event is optional, you can do them at any point until the end of the game, but doing them earlier unlocks unique content for week 6. Sometimes failing an event causes you to have to play through a different version of it the next time you decide to investigate, which pushes back your progress by 1 day. There's also game overs caused specifically by making the wrong choices during investigation events or failing minigames. If this sounds complicated, it's because it is. It's something that took a lot of planning, writing, implementing, and will likely take a lot of testing due to the sheer amount of branching. But it's one of the most important parts of the game to me, and I think it's worth all the work that was put into it to make it complex and replayable. I mentioned before that the investigation is fully optional, and not doing it will not cause a bad ending. I've taken the time to create events exclusive to not having started an investigation by a certain point in the story, to give more incentive to players who just don't think it's the best choice. Ultimately, what the best way to resolve the main story even is a personal choice of each player. There is no right choice or a single good ending. There are 12 good endings to this game if we want to be exact. The shift from right and wrong to a matter of beliefs allowed me to create an alignment system. If you've played role-playing games, you're likely familiar with the concept of law versus chaos. This is what Absolution's alignment system is. There is no neutral option, because even if you refuse to interfere, events will unfold on their own. I like to think that Absolution's approach to alignment has a lot in common with mainline Shin Megami Tensei games. The way it's set up is, you'll have a lawful character and a chaotic character, who are typically opposed to each other but not initially opposed to the player. I like the idea of alignment being rooted in the specific circumstances of the game, which makes it equal parts an ideological choice and a practical one. Discussing law and chaos should feel distinctly different when it's done in the context of that conflict in Absolution. Moving on to the routes on week 5, this section will have no spoilers, I'll just explain how everything is set up as of now. Every route has a different branching structure, and this has been true since week 2, but week 5 is where it gets very complex compared to the previous builds. Tom's route lets you change which altar of his you see the most of for the rest of the game, between the 2nd and the 3rd, depending on your choices during week 5. This means that quite a few sessions have 2 completely different versions because you're seeing different characters and discussing different things. At least 2 sessions are actually 4 different sessions, also taking into account the bad ending branches. Because of this complexity, Tom's bad endings actually all happen on week 5, ending the story earlier, leaving only 2 branches for week 6. William is another complicated route, with week 5 sessions until Wednesday all collectively feeding into your final ending branch that in turn affects certain events for the rest of the game before getting resolved at the very end. Charlie is an interesting case because his route doesn't actually contain the week 5 investigation, and many of the otherwise obligatory common story events either don't happen on his route or are altered to fit his story. This is done because I felt it would be more organic and interesting to explore the main story from another perspective, given that he has a unique relationship to it among the main character's patients. There is even a different alignment system unique to Charlie's route that functions much like the main story's alignment, being represented by important side characters, having choices throughout the game affected, etc. I really like Charlie's route, in both Act 1 and 2 so far, because of how unique it is. And lastly, Michael's route has the least endings planned, so what branching there will be will likely be less complex. I don't have a solid outline yet though, so things may change in the future. So that's the plan for week 5 content. Here's where I explained how much content I actually have and what remains to be done until the next build is ready. The common story, including investigation events among others, has been written and implemented for quite some time now. I've tested the events as I was implementing them, and afterwards 2 of my friends played through the investigation. I don't consider that part of the game fully tested though. The playthroughs that weren't mine only went through one of the branches, that being a successful investigation. There are many ways to go through the investigation events or to not go through them at all, and they all need to be tested before Build D can be released. Similarly to the common story events, William's route has been written for both weeks 5 and 6, save for the good endings, for a long time and is currently implemented up to the end of Build D. Charlie's route is a recent addition, both in writing and implementation. As a side note, when I talk about implementing a scene, I mean adding music, character sprites to it, and making any new assets I need, just so we're clear. So Charlie's route is done up to the end of Build D, and I'm actually currently writing weekend events unique to him, which are very exciting to make. Tom's route is done up to Wednesday of week 5, along with implementation, and I have 2 out of 4 branches for his Wednesday session. The good news is that once I write the remaining 2, Thursday and Fridays should go much more smoothly, since there will be less variation and some of the branches will have finished by then. Michael's route is the only real concern right now, since I haven't worked on week 5 for it at all yet. Like I said before, it is planned to have less branching than the others, so working on it might actually be much faster than some of the others. But I want to ensure that it makes up for being more linear than the others by being satisfying and dramatic. I've been stuck on routes in the past, and what helped me then was to just get anything else I can down before focusing on the thing that I left before, but only once I have good ideas for it. I've done it with Charlie's Act 1, and I'm very happy with how it turned out, so I'm hoping the same will be true for Michael's week 5. There's another aspect of week 5 that I haven't touched on yet, and that is sanity. A lot of you may know of the sanity mechanic from the Dream tutorial on week 1, and I've gotten a lot of comments and reviews that mentioned the excitement for it. Well, the good news is that I finally started properly working on the sanity mechanic and making it an integral part of the game. I've taken inspiration from how I implemented the empathy mechanic in December as something with 3 levels, with different levels of sanity unlocking different choices, narration, and even whole scenes. I really think that the sanity mechanic is a good addition to the game, and that it will make the time management aspect even more interesting and complex. The bad news is that I've expanded on the original idea of sanity so much that I haven't been able to finish all the scenes I've conceptualized yet. There already is a lot of new sanity-based content in the main story, especially on week 5. And there are 6 currently implemented exploration events that only occur if the main character's sanity is low. Still, there are at least a few more events and changes I would like to make with the sanity mechanic to make it really look the way I envision it. You may realize by now what the announcement I promised at the beginning of this video is about. Originally, Build D, containing all of week 5, was due to come out on the 20th of April. This has proven to be an impossible deadline. I had very low chances of creating so much content in as little time as 2 months, even before deciding to implement sanity to the extent that I did. All of this to say, the original release schedule is not something I can really uphold anymore. As for week 5's actual release date, I'd rather not make promises I can't keep. I'll keep working on week 5 and hopefully it will come out finished and satisfying to both the players and myself. That's all I can really promise right now. And with that, that's going to be it for this video. You can like, comment, subscribe, it all really helps. Also, if you enjoyed the devlog, let me know. If there's enough positive feedback about this video, I can make more in the future, maybe even longer videos about certain aspects of the game's story, its history, inspirations, and so on. Let me know what you guys would be interested in the comments below. I hope to see you again soon.